This is Mark Gunn Media.
Hit it!
Welcome to Gunshots Straight from the Hip. I'm your host, Mark Gunn. The views expressed on this program are those of the host and guests and not necessarily reflective of anyone or any entity associated with this broadcast. This episode is brought to you by WhenWeAllVote.org.
Why should I vote? Nothing ever changes. The system is rigged. Why bother? Whether you're trying to get dinner on the table after working a double shift, dropping baby off with grandma, or studying for exams, voting can feel like the furthest thing from your mind. You might even feel like it's just not worth it. But that's exactly what some people want you to think. The truth is, when we stay home, things stay the same or they get worse. But when we all vote, we get new ideas and new energy. We get leaders who share our values and listen to our voices. That's how we change America. And that's why it's so important to register right now and vote this November. And in every election, go to whenweallvote.org or text We All Vote to 97779 to get started and know that your vote will make a difference. Be sure to get registered and get to the polls on November 6th. This
episode, a look back at the first presidential debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. What in the entire... So the first of three presidential debates went down between Donald Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. And needless to say, this is going to be something that people are going to be talking about for a while. Not because of any sort of revelations as far as information or platform or any, well, at least not from Donald Trump, but for the sheer that went down. In this episode, celebrity reactions, late night TV host reactions, Senator Kamala Harris on whether there should even be a second debate, and a conversation with Cory Booker and his take on the entire thing. But first, here are some of the highlights or lowlights, or take them how you will.
This month, your administration directed federal agencies to end racial sensitivity training that addresses white privilege or critical race theory. Why did you decide to do that, to end racial sensitivity training? And do you believe that there is systemic racism in this country, sir?
I ended it because it's racist. I ended it because a lot of people were complaining that they were asked to do things that were absolutely insane, that it was a radical revolution that was taking place in our military, in our schools, all over the place, and you know it, and so does everybody else. And he would know.
What is radical
totally
about racial sensitivity training?
If you were a certain person, you had no status in life. It was sort of a reversal. And if you look at the people, we were paying people hundreds of thousands of dollars to teach very bad ideas and, frankly, very sick ideas. And really, they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to allow that to happen. We have to go back to the core values of this country. They were teaching people that our country is a horrible place, it's a racist place, and they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to allow that to happen.
Vice President Biden?
Nobody's doing that. He's the racist.
You just don't know.
Here's the deal. I know a lot more about this than he does.
Let him finish. Vice President Biden, after the grand jury in the Breonna Taylor case decided not to charge any of the police with homicide, you said it raises the question, quote, whether justice could be equally applied in America. Do you believe that there is a separate but unequal system of justice for blacks in this country?
Yes, there is. There's systemic injustice in this country, in education and work and in law enforcement and the way in which it's enforced. But look, the vast majority of police officers are good, decent, honorable men and women. They risk their lives every day to take care of us. But there are some bad apples. And when they occur, when they find them, they have to be sorted out. They have to be held accountable.
Now, the biggest bone of contention for a lot of people that have been talking about this debate was Trump's refusal to denounce white supremacists and his call to the Proud Boys to, quote, stand back and stand by.
Are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland.
Sure,
Are you
I'm willing
prepared to
do
specifically
that,
do it?
Well, go ahead, sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
Do you want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name.
supremacists and
Who would
white
you like me to condemn?
supremacists and right
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left-wing.
FBI director
This is a left-wing problem.
White supremacists. Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you got to be
not
kidding.
militia. That's what his FBI, FBI director
Gentlemen,
said.
Well, then you know what?
No, we're done, sir.
Here's Roland Martin of Roland Martin Unfiltered.
That was a show. It was trash. If you want to see how much Donald Trump is a bully, how pathetic he is, how trifling he is, how ignorant he is, how shameful he is, you saw it tonight. If you are a voter, and if you vote for Donald Trump, you are voting for one of the most ignorant, disrespectful, shameful, sadistic, pathetic individuals ever to sit in the Oval Office. He was an abomination. He was rude. He was sick. He would not shut up. He was disrespectful. There is no way in hell, watching that debate, I would want to even consider voting for that man. If you are a Republican and you're going to vote for him, shame on you. Shame on you. There was only one grown up on that stage tonight, and that was Joe Biden. He tried to be respectful. He tried to adhere to the moderator, but flat out, Donald Trump is stupid. Donald Trump is pathetic. It's as simple as that. If you vote for that, you need to go somewhere. That was awful. We just watched an hour-and-a-half debate of sheer stupidity, and that man actually has the nuclear codes. Do y'all understand what I'm saying? That was just pathetic. At one point, I thought Chris Wallace was going to say, shut the f*** up. At one point, I thought he was going to literally say, shut the f*** up. And Chris Wallace was awful. Chris Wallace should have said, I'm not going to ask another question until you respect the rules. Chris Wallace should have sat there and said nothing. A woman would have moderated this debate better. Because a woman would have said, we are not going to continue unless you behave properly. We're not moving forward with this nonsense. Trump was stupid. If y'all want to see who deserves to sit in the Oval Office, it's not Donald Trump. It's as simple as that.
Here's a look at how some of the late-night TV shows handled it.
Donald Trump is an abomination. He is a stain on the office of the presidency in his behavior, and I saw that in Vice President Biden's face.
We'll talk about who won the debate, who lost the debate, but I can tell you one thing for sure. The American people lost tonight, because that was horrific.
You just took the words out of my mouth. You used some high-minded language. I'm just going to say it like it is. That was a show. And, you know, we're on cable. We can say that. Apologies for being maybe a little bit crude, but that is really the phrase that I'm getting, from people on both sides of the aisle on text. And it's the only phrase that I can think of to really describe it.
Eventually, Biden had just had it.
Will you shut up, man? Listen,
No, he won't. Imagine if that worked. It's not great when you have to say the same thing to the president of the United States that you would shout at a friend who won't stop ranting about how Van Halen is actually better band with Sammy Hagar.
Boy, wasn't that fun? Seriously, did anyone take anything away from tonight? Was that helpful to any American? The only person who enjoyed that was Vladimir Putin while he was stroking a cat. Yes.
And as for Trump's performance, two things. One, Now we finally know what it would be like if he read his Twitter feed out loud. And 2, I can't believe how hard his brain malfunctioned when they asked him to denounce white supremacists. Will you denounce the Proud Boys, Mr. President? Well, the Proud Boys, well, stand back and stand by, boys. So after the first debates, I don't know if anybody won. All I know is, for the next debate, I'm going to stand back from the TV and stand by a bottle of wine.
Even celebrities tweeted their reactions.
Ava DuVernay wrote, "For those who hadn't been listening for the past 4 years, Trump just told you that he ain't leaving and that he is a white supremacist. If that doesn't get every American who is not white into overdrive to toss his ass, we may actually deserve what happens next." Chance the Rapper pointed out Trump saying he called racial sensitivity training racist. And Anna Navarro simply said, "I want my hour and a half back."
Brie Larson tweeted, "Take a breath and remember your remote exits for a reason if you need to use it for your well-being." Her fellow Avenger Mark Ruffalo tweeted, "I know this is hard to get your head around, but let's be honest, our president is a fascist dictator who has a fascist gang of thugs standing by. Real."
Kerry Washington said, "Once again, Trump refuses to condemn white supremacy. Pay attention, folks. Please vote." While Billy Eichner tweeted, "This is what happens when you elect a sociopathic reality show host to run not only the country, but to dictate how we communicate with each other about deadly serious issues."
Yeah, and Uzo weighed in. The misstep of this administration was trying to set a table where Joe Biden would be too slow or too weak to ever hold a seat. Joe has proven himself ready and able. And Josh Gad said, "Like many of you, I'm angry tonight. So tomorrow I vow to roll up my sleeves, make more calls, write more letters, donate what I can, and make sure decency returns to this country I love dearly." You with me? While Dylan O'Brien simply said, "Holy F."
And as bad and as abusive as Trump was throughout this whole debate.
Wait a minute. You get the final word, Mr.
Well, it's hard to get any word in with this clown.
Joe Biden's running mate, Senator Kamala Harris, was asked, should there even be a second debate?
Joe Biden's never going to refuse to talk to the American people and have any opportunity that he can to speak directly to American families and speak about the issues, speak the truth, and address the facts of where we are now, but also address the hopes and dreams of the American family in terms of where we can be. And Joe's got a plan for dealing with those hopes and those aspirations as well.
Do you think the American people benefited from what we all saw this evening?
I think the American people benefited from a very clear contrast. You know, on the one hand, you had Joe talking directly into the camera, trying to bring some semblance of maturity to a conversation with a country that is in the midst of at least 3 major crises of a proportion we've not experienced in generations: a public health pandemic, an economic crisis being measured against the Great Depression, and of course a climate crisis, and then a reckoning on race in this country. And Joe was trying to have a mature conversation about how we need to address these issues. And then on the other hand, you had a Donald Trump who spent full time interrupting, bullying the moderator and lying to the American people. And so I do believe that the American people benefited from a clear contrast of what they've got right now, but also what they can get and what is possible. And Joe, I think, made it clear that what is possible will be achieved when everyone votes.
I have to get your reaction to something that President Trump said that has alarmed the Anti-Defamation League. When he was asked to condemn white supremacists, he didn't. He said he could, but he didn't do it. And then he raised the group, the Proud Boys, which is a far-right neo-fascist group, and told them to stand back and stand by. Stand back and stand by. And according to media reports, members of that group, which are blamed for a lot of violence in a lot of cities, are rejoicing about this. What was your response when you heard that?
I heard what we all heard. The President of the United States, in the year of our Lord 2020, refuses to condemn white supremacists. And not only that, in addition, has created a number of policies, apparently with pride, including the most recent that was discussed on the debate stage, which is to end the training on the issue of race and what we must do to avoid prejudice and bias based on race and based on gender, sexual orientation, and a number of issues. This is a president, you know, people talk about, is he dog whistling? Dog whistling through a bullhorn is what he's doing. And, you know, by contrast, again, you have a Joe Biden who is not afraid to speak the phrase Black Lives Matter. A Joe Biden who says we need to deal with this, we need to speak truth about it, and we need to do it with the spirit of healing and unifying our country. And again, Jake, contrast, so clear. On the one hand, Donald Trump continuously throughout his campaign for president, throughout his presidency, spending full time trying to sow hate and division, trying to get the American people to turn on each other. And on the other hand, a Joe Biden who speaks with a calm voice, respecting the dignity of all people, recognizing the kind of division that has taken place in our country because of Donald Trump, and there with a genuine goal of unifying our country once, God willing, he wins this election.
That was Vice Presidential running mate Senator Kamala Harris reacting to the debate performance and answering the question whether or not there should even be a second debate. Coming up, you'll hear from some undecided voters and what they took away from the debate, and a conversation with Senator Cory Booker right after this.
Right now, 1 in 5 eligible people in this country are not even registered to vote. And I know it's not because people don't care. We all care. The only way to make change in this country is to get out and vote for the change you're looking for. What if this year we actually did that? What if this year every eligible American decided to step up and be a voter? What can actually happen when we all vote? Imagine the kind of leaders we can elect.
Leaders who are committed to creating a better world for my girls.
When we all vote, we have the power to shape the future.
My father was deported when I was 8 years old. If you can't vote, you should vote. Where we all vote, we translate our dreams into change.
Register to vote today, not tomorrow, not the next day, but today.
That means all of us.
When we all vote, that's how change happens in America. I love you all so much. Let's get it done.
For downloads of this and past episodes and information about all the multimedia services we offer, log on to our website at www.markgunmedia.com. That's markgunmedia.com. Welcome back to Gunshots Straight from the Hip. My name is Mark Gunn, and don't forget, you can subscribe to our podcast wherever you get them. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Wait a minute, you get the final word, Mr.
Well, it's hard to get any word in with this clown.
We're talking about the first presidential debate, the reaction to it, and what went down. And one of the things that was highly talked about was the fact that there are very few undecided voters. People pretty much went into the debate with their minds already made up. However, undecided voters were asked for their reactions after the debate.
If you were to ask me who won the debate, I don't really think either one won. They danced around, called each other names, were disrespectful.
I don't know if anybody really won, but I came away with a little more respect for Joe Biden.
I think I'm still pretty undecided.
It would maybe edge me a little bit more towards Biden, but not much.
What would you like to see in the next presidential debate?
A mute button on the microphones.
Another man who was able to give us his feedback was Senator Cory Booker, at one time a presidential contender, now fully endorsing the Biden-Harris ticket.
I mean, it was painful. And I think that if you're not hurting or worried after what we just watched, maybe you tuned into the wrong thing. I mean, Donald Trump came with this obesity of aggression and just like a pugnacious posturing that was just not who we want to represent us. It's not representing the spirit or the heart of this country. And I respect a lot of what Joe Biden was trying to say and do during that election. He came far more presidential, frankly, but Donald Trump, I mean, to see a Fox News commentator have to try to constantly wrestle with the president of the United States just so Joe Biden would have time to speak. It was embarrassing to our country, and yet another example of how Donald Trump's heart is so discordant I think, what the heart of America is all about and what the spirit of this country is about. It was hard. It was painful.
Yeah, Senator, as far as Trump's performance goes, it's almost like it was an insult for him to be there. But what did you think of Joe Biden's performance?
Well, first of all, there's a sense with Donald Trump is almost like, Putin doesn't have to go through these things. Why do I even have to be here? And I'm just going to try to bully and dominate the night. And so what I liked about Joe Biden is he kept trying to turn it away from the two men on the stage and back to the American people. At one point, he did this impassioned plea. This is not about us. This is about you. This is about you, and trying to keep it on the people and people that are hurting. I mean, look, we are at a moment in America where addiction is up, life expectancy is down, suicides are up, our disparities in wealth are greater than they've been in generations. We are at a time where our economy is at double-digit unemployment. I mean, there are so many things that people are struggling to, and Donald Trump tried to keep saying that everything is greater than it's ever been. And he's, as he says, the best president we've ever had. And so I just appreciate that the patience that we saw within Joe Biden in trying to continue to bring the subject back to the American people and to what was going on, despite Donald Trump, who just said things that left me gobsmacked. I mean, making claims that were just wildly wrong, that he created 700,000 manufacturing jobs when the fact is we've lost 200,000 manufacturing jobs under his watch, constantly just putting out things that were not true. And then I think the most hurtful moment for me, for Joe, a guy that I've gotten to know well, is when he talked about the sacrifice of his son, Bo, that died, that served honorably in the military. And Donald Trump didn't even pause. He just treaded over that hurt and that pain, treaded over the honor of his service to try to score more cheap hits on the vice president based on lies. And so the whole night was just sad that our commander in chief was just so ugly amidst Joe Biden trying to do what he did with me. I was on debate stages with him, which is actually to discuss the issues that Americans really care about right now.
Yeah, I get what you mean. It was a rather painful moment to watch. I mean, you really, really felt bad for Mr. Biden as he was talking about his son. And it was just another example of the empathy that he has been displaying throughout the entire campaign, right?
Joe has this sort of reverence for the office. He sees it with a sense of humility. He actually knows that no individual, woman or man, is big enough to fill what the presidency is, the awesome responsibilities. And that's why he approaches it with humility and a sense of gravity. Donald Trump does not at all. He treads upon the awesomeness of the responsibilities. He has a level of arrogance and even a disdain for the virtues that we need right now. And in one of my most intimate conversations with Joe, we were driving, I was going to endorse him. We were driving from Flint, Michigan to Detroit. And it was one of the best I'd ever felt. I just dropped out of a presidential race and I was going to endorse the guy that beat me. And he seemed to understand that right now, perhaps more than any period in the last 50 years, what we need from a president is someone that can heal us, that can remind us that the lines that divide us are nowhere near as strong as the ties that bind us. He yearns for us to see that in this moment in America, we must put more indivisible back into this one nation under God. And so maybe that's why the moment of this debate that was like a dagger to the heart of that American aspiration, and that is truly menacing to all that we stand for. You see, I know in my personal family history what it has meant to see our society collectively reject the KKK. I know what it meant when the Klan was marching in Virginia, in the same city my mom did a sit-in in, to see this country resoundingly reject the Klan and Nazis, which American blood was spilled fighting in Europe. And when this president was given the simple opportunity to yet again condemn hateful groups, he didn't just fail to condemn it, as you and John were talking about. There was something even more chilling that is real. He said, stand back and stand by to the Proud Boys, a right-wing hate organization. Stand back and stand by, that they are now online using those words almost as if they're licensed from the president of the United States to stand ready in an election to engage. There is a dangerous, menacing reality going on right now where the president of the United States is failing to endorse the American 200-year tradition of a peaceful transfer of power, a president who has said undeniably, if I lose, this election was rigged. And now he is calling out to right-wing white supremacist organizations and telling them to stand by. And so that to me was so frightening, so anti-American spirit, so contrary to the heart and the soul of this country. And to me, he has violated his very oath to defend a constitution that speaks in spirit to this understanding that we are a nation that sets a democratic example globally. So I just want people to know, to listen to him tonight. As a great poet, Maya Angelou, said, if someone tells you who they are, believe them. And it is a frightening thing, but we've got to turn our fear into fight, our worry into work, because we do have the power. We as a country are more, the power of the people is greater than that man that's in power.
And based on what we saw from the debate, that man in power, being Donald J. Trump, should no longer be there come November, which is why it's so important for you to make sure that you are registered to vote by October 5th. Senator Booker, thank you so much. Hey, this was a look back at the first of 3 presidential debates that are going to be happening between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. There's also going to be a vice presidential debate between Senator Kamala Harris and Vice President Mike Pence. So we will definitely be covering that as well. We want to know what you think. What did you think of the debate? Get a hold of us on our website at markgunmedia.com. We do have a section in the website for you to share your thoughts, okay? I'm not going to hide it. I'm not even going to try to be neutral. I am a registered independent, and I am voting for Joe Biden. And at this point, it's not necessarily about any of the policies that are being talked about this election. It's more about human decency. What kind of country do you want to live in? Do you want one where the Proud Boys and other white supremacist groups are given the green light to run roughshod over American citizens? Or do you want to live in a country where decent people of all races stand together shoulder to shoulder to fight people like Donald Trump and the Proud Boys? I know which side I'm on. What side are you on? Make sure you get to the polls this November and vote. You've been listening to Gunshots Straight from the Hip. The views expressed are those of the host and guests and not reflective of any business entity or anyone associated with this broadcast. If you have any comments or want more information on how to be a sponsor, log on to our website at markgunmedia.com or call us at 502-407-0283. That's 502-407-0283. Thank you for listening.
Mark Gun Media. No hype, no hoopla, just damn good work.